Today, I am breaking down ESPN's top 5 players at every single position for the 2026 NFL Draft. Let's jump right into this. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'm doing a video every single day, which includes right now at 10:56 p.m. from the 12th to the 12th. So I hope you guys do appreciate that. I am earning these eye bags because y'all know I work a 9 to 5. But let's talk about the quarterbacks. And yes, this is going to be both for Matt Miller and Jordan Reid with their top 5. So I'm super excited for that. Had the pleasure of meeting both Matt Miller and Jordan Reid. Shout out to Jordan Reid. I actually got to text him a couple of times. He's actually a really chill guy. And so, gotta be able to plug my homies there wherever possible. Shout out to Mobile, Alabama, the Senior Bowl for making all of that even possible. But let's talk about these quarterbacks. I do have a video up on this. There are going to be some positions where I don't, but a lot of these positions I have fully graded out. So I'm super excited for it. And if I do, it is included on the board below my face. If you guys do want to see more of my board, then you guys can go over to the Patreon where you get to see the board. You get to see all the evals. And on top of that, you guys get to see extended versions of the rankings videos. So you get to see everything. So let's get into this though. Miller's top 5. You got Drew Aller, Sellers, Mendoza, Nussmeier, and Klubnik from 5 to 1. And then for Jordan Reid, we're going to look at these guys together, of course. I'm not going to, give my analysis on Matt Miller's and then have to regurgitate it for Jordan Reid. Jordan Reid has Mendoza at 5, Aller at 4, Nussmeier at 3, LaNorris Sellers at 2, and Cade Klubnik at 1. So there's a consensus at number 1, which is Cade. And Cade's my QB5. Now, granted, I think he is the safest quarterback prospect in this class. He's progressed every single year, which is a thing I love about Drew Aller. But for Cade Klubnik, he's almost the exact opposite of Drew. Drew has all these traits that are just mind-popping or eye-popping and mind-boggling, which is pretty much just his throw power and his size. Cade's not necessarily the best built guy on planet Earth. He doesn't have the strongest arm on planet Earth, but he just does everything really damn well. And that's really valuable in the NFL. So I do think Cade Klubnik can end up being, that top 15 quarterback for a consistent period of time. If he ends up being top 10, it'd be a little bit of a surprise for me, but at the same time, he's just a really solid quarterback. And I'm not a big fan of those quarterbacks that, last year I wasn't the biggest guy of Carson Beck. He was like consensus number 1 overall. He was my QB3. I mean, Cade Klubnik technically is lower than that, but I think this class is a lot better. Of course, I also, when I say QB5, am including Arch Manning, so QB4, not including him. But Cade Klubnik, I do think he's a really solid quarterback. I'm not going to complain too much. Their number 2 quarterbacks, respectively, Matt Miller with Garrett Nussmeier, and then LaNorris Sellers for Jordan Reid. Y'all see exactly what I think of LaNorris Sellers. I do think he is Superman. So he is my QB1. But Garrett Nussmeier is the one who I want to talk about, which is Jordan Reid's number 3. And we'll talk about Matt Miller's number 3 in a second. But Garrett Nussmeier, to me, is just, I don't know why people don't talk about his frame. It's 6'2", 200 listed by LSU. You can complain about that all you want. That's just what they're reporting. That's a really small build. And he doesn't have the biggest arm. He has some splash throws that are just eye-popping, mind-boggling, whatever the hell you want to use. But this quarterback class is awesome. Garrett Nussmeier is just way too inconsistent for me. I mean, that's just a big thing. Quarterback consistency is the name of the game in the NFL. And we're going to see him probably take a step up this year. And I'm super excited for him to take that step that I think he needs to get into this tier. But I do not think he is there. But let's talk about Fernando Mendoza, which is Matt Miller's number 3 and Jordan Reid's number 5 QB. We're going to fly through this a little bit quicker for some of the other positions, but quarterback is what people care about a lot. And Fernando Mendoza is super fun. He is my QB3. Just needs to work a little bit on the processing. I think he can end up kind of forcing the ball in there from time to time, but one of the best playmakers in the class. When everything breaks down, I feel like he handles it better than the majority of the quarterbacks. So huge fan of that. And of course, Drew Aller, talked about it earlier, progressed every single year, similar to Cade Klubnik, but is more of those athletic traits, crazy big arm, sneakily athletic as well. And, he's, true competitor. So I do think if he ended up coming out, would have ended up being a first-round pick, elected to go back. So they're talking about Aller was the toughest player to rank. I actually like these little segments right here. Actually, good job by ESPN for doing that. Of course, I do think Matt Miller and Jordan Reid both are fantastic in their own right, but player outside of the top 5 to watch, John Mateer, I totally agree. I mean, Aiden Childs would be another one I throw in there, but because of his age, I do think that's going to be, it's a lot more appropriate to talk about John Mateer, who was, the next quarterback available outside of Aiden Childs, who I have a lot of faith in. But let's talk about the running backs next. And again, I have a video up on the running backs. If you see a running back listed, that means there's a video out on them. But we'll talk about Miller's top 5 and Jordan Reed's top 5. I'm just going to run really quickly through them for you guys. We have for Matt Miller, Nick Singleton at 5, Katron Allen at 4, Mekhi Hughes at 3, CJ Baxter at 2, and Jeremiah Love at 1. For Jordan Reed, he has Jonah Coleman at 5, Quintravian Wisner at 4, Damond Claiborne at number 3, Nick Singleton at number 2, and Jeremiah Love at number 1. Now, let's talk about the ones they have in common first, which starting out at the top with Jeremiah Love. I mean, he is just such a good player. I want him to be a little bit more consistent breaking tackles, but an insane athlete. And if he ends up just getting that final piece together, he is easily RB1. He is just sniffing it. And I love that about him. He is a really damn good running back. CJ Baxter is on Matt Miller's list at number 2 and not Jordan Reed's. I do not grade running backs post season ending injuries because it's just such a difficult it's a difficult position to give credit when you just don't know the player after. And I'm a sucker for being able to understand who the player is now. That's just a big thing for me. It's good to be able to look back and see what they were, but the biggest thing is who they are now. And I just couldn't do that. So TBD on Baxter, we'll see. At number 3 for Matt Miller, he has Mekhi Hughes, who is also not on Jordan Reed's top 5. Mekhi is, if I'm not mistaken, my RB4. He is, yes. I love Mekhi Hughes. I mean, he is perfect for Oregon, especially combining there with Noah Whittington. Just a great 1-2 punch. I'm a huge fan of what they're going to bring. But bouncing down to someone who is on both of Matt Miller and Jordan Reed's list is Nick Singleton. Number 5 for Matt Miller. Number 2 for Jordan Reed. Again, going through the running backs because it's actually a fun class with a lot of names people know and a class that I really, really like. Nick Singleton's north-south. He's a really good runner, and in the right system, he is well worth this. I just have some issues with Nick Singleton's balance of his overall skill set, so that's why I have him a bit lower. We'll talk then about Damond Claiborne, Jordan Reed's number 3 running back, not listed in Matt Miller's. Damond Claiborne is my number 2 running back in the class. I think that he is absolutely electric. And, I mean, again, feel free to check out the video for a more in-depth description, but I love the Damond Claiborne shout-out. Quintravian Wisner is on Jordan Reed's list at number 4, not on Matt Miller's. I thought Quintravian is the definition of a really solid rotational committee back. And, I mean, it's understandable. He's a safe pick. Very similar to Cade Klubnik, but on a worse level. I think Quintravian Wisner is essentially the lower-tier version, the on-sale version of Cade Klubnik in the quarterback class. But then we have Jonah Coleman as well, who I would be remiss not to talk about. Same thing with Katron Allen. Technically, both are in very similar boats, except Jonah Coleman is increasing his athleticism. He ended up talking about recomping his physique. Good to see that because he was a lot more athletic, or at least eye-popping at Arizona than he was at Washington. Jonah Coleman should have been the number 2 running back for me this year based on his grade coming into Washington. And then, unfortunately, I think he took a big step back. Katron Allen is just a fun player to watch. I mean, there's certain aspects of him that's better than Nick Singleton. It doesn't really matter. Both of them actually complement each other really well. But Katron Allen, that top speed, I mean, able to be caught up by Kenneth Grant, big issue. But let's continue down the list. Jaden Ott is a player to watch outside the top 5. I think Jaden Ott's probably one of those names where I wouldn't have probably tossed him in there. Y'all see my number 1 running back in the class. Jaheim White is just jaw-dropping, man. I mean, I'm a huge super fan of Jaheim White. So I'm going to pound the table for him. Jaden Ott, from everyone I've talked to, is just like, he is not the reason he sucked last year. Cal's offensive line was atrocious, but at the same time, I do think that Jaden Ott is not necessarily overly exciting to watch. And I've been pretty consistent on that. Let's talk about the wide receivers. We'll go again, talk about Matt Miller's top 5 and Jordan Reed's top 5, and then compare the two. Oh my goodness, Jordan. Okay, well, we're going to have some disagreements. For Matt Miller, his number 5 is Carnell Tate. Number 4, Denzel Boston. Number 3, Eric Singleton. And number 2, Jordan Tyson. And number 1, Antonio Williams. Obviously, a lot of those players that I like, so we'll talk about that. For Jordan Reed, at number 5 is Denzel Boston. Number 4, Carnell Tate. Number 3, Antonio Williams. Number 2, Jordan Tyson. And number 1, Jacoby Lane. I'm just going to be honest, and we'll just talk about the highlights on this one because my wide receiver video is more than enough for you guys to be able to digest everything. But I do not like Jacoby Lane. I hope I'm wrong, but he kind of feels like a clearance version of George Pickens in terms of the lack of athleticism, some developing route running, and a really solid release package. So I would just put that there. Jordan Tyson, huge fan of him. So I love the fact that he's number 2 on both of their lists. Antonio Williams, I'm a big fan of him as well. Been a consistent fan of him since last year, so it's good to see him there. Currently, he is donde está, homie. I'm trying to see where I ended up having him, but I kind of forgot. I ended up dropping him just a little bit. Antonio Williams, number 35 overall on my big board, and he's like right there in that top 10 for me. Denzel Boston, I mean, I just think he's a big vertical. Not a huge fan of that, but I do understand the application. I thought he was basically a worse version of Tetro McMillan. Cornell Tate, understandable. I mean, it's Ohio State receiver, but I do think he is clearly the worst out of the group that has come out recently, which is a damn good group. So the other name to watch, Elijah Surratt. I respect it. He's a really solid receiver, but the athleticism is very scary. I don't think that he has the athleticism to really make an impact next level, but hands-wise, he is awesome. Let's talk about the tight ends. Again, Matt Miller's 5, then Jordan Reed's, and then comparison. For Matt Miller, number 5, Joe Royer out of Cincinnati. Number 4, Max Clare out of Ohio State. Number 3, Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Number 2, Jack Endries out of Texas. And then number 1, Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. For Jordan Reed, he has Joe Royer also at 5. Jack Endries at number 4. Max Clare at number 3. Eli Stowers at number 2. And Kenyon Sadiq at number 1. So I liked a lot of the tight ends in this class. I mean, it sucks that we can't see my boy Miles Kitzelman on here. He was honestly so shocking. That guy just caught me off guard and probably hasn't even been watched by these guys just because of the fact that it was just a name I tossed in at the end. But Kenyon Sadiq, huge fan of his game. I mean, this guy is absolutely dynamic. Just one of the craziest guys after the catch I've seen at tight end. And then you talk about Max Clare as well. Really good route runner. It sucks that he's 235, but he plays pretty damn solid for it. Eli Stowers is fun, just 235 pounds as well. And I don't think he's the type of receiver that Max Clare is. Probably a little bit better after the catch, but I do think Max Clare is a better player, which technically neither Matt Miller nor Jordan Reed believe that. I respect it. Shout out to Jack Enders' dad, who actually ended up reaching out to me on Twitter. Love to be able to see when the parents are involved. It's just, I don't know, that's just awesome to me to be able to actually see the more personal side of it. But, I think he's going to a great role there at Texas. I wasn't the biggest guy on the actual talent to say he's in my top 5, but I do really love all the backstory, but be on top of that, being able to see him go into a role that I really can see him thriving in. And Joe Royer actually has a lot of potential too. Feel free to check out the tight end video for that. The name to watch is Luke Hodge out of Ole Miss. I mean, definitely somebody who I was very let down by, but really, really good route runner. Let's talk about offensive tackle here, which I haven't been able to grade this position, so I'm not going to dive into it as much. I've seen a lot of these tackles versus the edge rushers, and then also seen them by watching the defensive interiors face against some of their teammates. But for Matt Miller, Caleb Lamu at 5, Spencer Fano 4, Austin Barber at number 3, number 2, Caden Proctor, number 1, CC Francis Mauigoa. For Jordan Reed, Drew Shelton at 5, Caleb Lamu at 4, Isaiah World at 3, Caden Proctor at 2, and Spencer Fano at 1. Fano's super fun. I mean, really good run blocker. I'm still, again, I have not graded the offensive tackle class, but Francis Mauigoa is someone who I've seen several times, and even though he doesn't have an official grade from me, he has pretty much an official grade in my mind, and that is going to be one of the better tackles in the class. Again, I want to be able to see the other guys to be able to claim or to crown Francis Mauigoa. I will say Antoine Powell-Ryland got the best of him a couple times, so that's a 6th-round pick. Caden Proctor scares the shit out of me, but I totally understand if you wanted to throw a dart and see if it works. This is going to be that type of guy where you're going to have to take a big risk. I do think he should stay for another 2 years. Austin Barber, good flexibility, just been a consistent tackle there at Florida. Good job by him to stay, because I think that, he's going to really stand out without, I think, was it Crenshaw Dixon? I think that was the tackle that was there, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. That guy, no disrespect to him on a personal level, but he just sucked at football. Just going to put it, I got to see him in person here in Dallas, and I was like, oof. But Austin Barber, definitely, I think he'll end up taking that big step up. And then Caleb Lamu, got to give him a shout out as well. Even though he ended up getting bodied by Arden Walker when they played Colorado, I still think that he probably will end up beating out Spencer Fano for me. because of the better, well-rounded pass protection skill. Then Isaiah World, I got to give him a shout out too. This guy flashes from Nevada and then ends up coming to Oregon. Oregon's had a really strong pipeline of talent, and I don't think it's going to change at all. Drew Shelton's not a name I know enough, or I haven't watched him close enough to be able to have an honest opinion. Most of the time when I watch edge rushers, don't really think of them versus Penn State. I usually like to watch them versus some schools with some names that I feel a little bit more comfortable with. Emil Wagner has been a hot name, so right tackle from Notre Dame. I still think that the left tackle, I think his name's, it's not Anthony Knapp. I'm forgetting the name of the left tackle, but he is a better player than Wagner to me. But again, I've watched Wagner several times. I love watching players versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame just has their shit together, so I think that Wagner will be a very intriguing player to see if he can end up squeezing into the top 5. It's just also small size. At guard, we'll talk about this really quickly because, again, I am not really skilled at the guard position yet. I have been watching plenty of these players, though, versus the defensive interiors. So I've been getting into that. But we talked about Davian Carter out of Texas Tech. Have not been able to see him. But Matt Miller's top 5, I forgot to say that. Davian Carter out of Texas Tech. Josh Braun out of Arkansas. I thought he's Kentucky now. Jaden Roberts out of Bama. And then Armaj Reed Adams out of Texas A&M. And Caden Green out of Missouri. For Jordan Reed, Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. Jaden Roberts out of Bama. Armaj Reed Adams out of Texas A&M. Caden Green out of Missouri. Then Francis Mauigoa out of Miami. So is that, he ended up putting him as okay, I was like wondering why CC was not at the tackle position, but he is now listed as the number 1 guard for Jordan Reed, so still a number 1 on the offensive line. Again, already talked about Mauigoa. There are some arm length concerns there, because especially if you end up getting beaten by a player who has sub 32-inch arms, I believe, in Antoine Powell-Ryland. There are maybe some concerns there. Caden Green, I've watched a lot of players versus Missouri. I will say he hasn't popped off yet to me while watching other players, which it's very rare that offensive linemen are the types to like legitimately pop while watching other players. But I will say I need them to pop out to me. Armaj Reed Adams, also another guy who didn't really pop to me, but at the same time, again, I'm not solely watching how he is playing. There's a lot of other players on the offensive line, which is why I only grade one player at a time. I know it could be a lot easier if I ended up just kind of like watching everyone at once. Be a lot more efficient, but I also think it would lead to a lot more inaccuracy. Jaden Roberts is so fun. I mean, I still think he could potentially be a tackle, but just the whiffs are such a bad trait of his, but there's a potential to be a superstar. Josh Braun, I mean, he's somebody who I touted a couple years ago when we ended up seeing, I'm forgetting the center's name that is now on the Rams, but when he was coming out, ended up really liking Josh Braun and gave him a shout out. Davian Carter, I have not seen. Emmanuel Pregnon, I've heard great things about. Shout out to DJ Campbell, who was in my top 100 going into the year last year. I do think he was probably one of the worst players on that Texas offensive line, though. Center, we'll, again, blow through this one really quickly. Pause. Pat Coogan out of Indiana. I've heard horrible things about Pat Coogan. I'm just going to be completely honest. Connor Tolson. I mean, that's one of the players I've been studying from Missouri, and I actually really like him. Logan Jones, again, this is Matt Miller's top 5. So Coogan, Tolson, Logan Jones out of Iowa, Iapani Lalulu. I can't pronounce names for shit. I try my best, but out of Oregon. And then Jake Slaughter out of Florida. For Jordan Reed, Connor Tolson, Logan Jones, Iapani as well, Jake Slaughter, then Connor Liu at number 1 out of Auburn. I'm just going to be honest. It kind of feels like Matt didn't watch that many centers because Pat Coogan, from everyone who I've known who's watched him, says this guy is one of the worst centers that they've studied. So I'm just going to be honest. Let's focus a little bit more on Jordan here, because I know Matt watches a lot of players. I'm not going to try to call him out for that. I'm just saying that specific one is kind of a head scratcher based on what I've heard from other people. I can't judge. Of course, I'm not putting out guard or center rankings when I haven't graded them, but I'll just look a little bit more at Jordan Reed's, because I actually think it would be a little bit more in line with what I'm looking at. First off, love Iowa centers. Iapani, really, really talented player. Jake Slaughter was someone who was one of my favorite last year. Excited to see Connor Liu. Heard a lot of love for him. And then again, Tolson I've seen a lot versus some defensive interiors. So, I mean, he is intriguing. I'm wondering if he's going to end up being one of those guys who could challenge for the top. And then Bryce Foster, formerly out of Texas A&M. I do think he's gonna yeah, he definitely went from Texas A&M and M and got a lot better, which sounds like every other player that leaves Texas A&M for some reason. But it's good to see that. But yeah, I mean, he was bad at Texas A&M. Good to see though. Kansas, I love watching players versus them, and they always have a really good blocking system. But time to get exciting, and that's edge rusher. Edge rusher is one of my favorite positions to draft or to study at the very minimum. And funnily enough, we have two guys who are outside of my top 30 and at number 5 for both these guys. So this is going to be a juicy conversation. For Jordan Reid, I know I'm changing it up. I'm sorry, guys. We got Gabe Akis, Ruben Bain at number 4, Denis Dennis Sutton at 3, TJ Parker at 2, and Keldrick Falk at 1. For Matt Miller, Pat Payton at number 5, David Bailey at number 4, Keldrick Falk at number 3, Ruben Bain at number 2, and TJ Parker at number 1. Patrick Payton, to me, it's just been so underwhelming. I got to see him in person here when he played with Florida State versus SMU. Did not look good then. I watched him on tape. Did not look good then either. Gabe Akis is someone who I've been rooting for since he was a true freshman, and he's just very underwhelming. I still think he's so raw for how much experience he has. Ruben Bain is one of my favorite players in the entire draft. He is my number 8 player currently, and that does not adjust for running back value. I have not adjusted that just yet because I should end up dropping them because it's normally what I do. I've just tried to give you guys exactly what the grades are without trying to, manipulate them in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, Ruben Bain is just an absolute savage. If he can stay healthy, he is the number 1. At number 3, well, I mean, y'all see what I think of Malachi Lawrence, but Denis Dennis Sutton, Reid's number 3. He's somebody who definitely belongs on a lot of people's top 5s, especially if you're more into the projection side of things. A really good frame, going to be the true edge one this year for Penn State. It'll be exciting to see. Then you got David Bailey. I want to mention him before we get to Falk and Parker, but David Bailey is just the definition of consistency. I love his game. Such a good pickup for Texas Tech and arguably a potential championship caliber team if Morton ends up doing a good enough job at QB. Then let's talk about Keldrick Falk first. Falk, if he just ends up dropping a little bit of weight, which it says he went from 288 to 270, I think that will boost his endurance, and being a full-time edge will be very helpful to him. And I think he has insane potential. Insane potential. He's my number 22 player on my board right now. Number 1, though, for Matt Miller. Number 2 for Jordan Reid is TJ Parker, who's my number 11. I mean, he just really disappeared in moments that I was hoping for him to truly shine. Consistency is super key as an edge rusher. Even though the high-end plays matter more, arguably, at that position than a lot of them, I still have a lot of concerns over the consistency of TJ Parker. Let's continue on. Defensive tackle, which will give you a little sneak peek into how I'm thinking this year. For Matt Miller, he goes Zane Durant at 5, Lee Hunter at 4, Keanu Tanuvasa at number 3, Tim Keenan at number 2, and Peter Woods at number 1. For Jordan Reid, Tim Keenan at 5, Zane Durant at 4, Christian Miller at 3, Caleb Banks at 2, and Peter Woods at 1. My list is going to be kind of a hybrid of these two, just FYI. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. But we'll go about Zane Durant first. I love Zane Durant's game. It's just such a small frame in the 290s. He has some really good impact and strength when he ends up engaging with offensive linemen. But I would say that when you put toe to turf, it's a little bit more like you're a crazy athlete that's still developing as a football player, which he'll have time this year. And he easily could end up being a top 5 defensive interior. I would not count that out. Tim Keenan is number 2 on Matt Miller's, number 5 on Jordan Reid's. The dude's an absolute space eater. Just that's kind of what his game's going to be. And there's a role for that. I think that's a little bit more limited. Keanu Tanuvasa, if I'm not mistaken, I'm like 99% sure I graded him. He did not do well for me. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Keanu is formerly of Utah. Did not like his game. I'll just put it that way. And I'll let the actual DI video that should be coming out next week end up describing that for you a little bit better. I'm going to save Christian Miller for a second. We'll talk about Caleb Banks next, and then Lee Hunter. Caleb Banks, he apparently has 35+ inch arms. So the dude's a freak. But he's surprisingly raw for being a redshirt senior now. I will say I do think that he's been a little bit less developed than what he should be. And that's a bit of a concern. But the flashes are there. We'll see if it ends up working out. We'll talk about Lee Hunter next. And Lee Hunter is one of my favorite players this entire draft. I mean, just an absolute beast. I mean, he really is awesome. Formerly of UCF, now at Texas Tech, another absolute snipe. Lee Hunter is going to be a star. Again, I'll give you guys better description when I end up doing my DI video. Peter Woods, again, I'm going to actually save Christian Miller for last. Peter Woods, it's understandable why he's a number one. Most people think he's a blue chip. I have him securedly as a starter in the NFL. He's a damn good player. I think as a pass rusher, he needs to get a bit more consistent, but he has all the tools, and I hate that word. I hate the word tools, but he has everything he needs to be a really good pass rusher, and that's a good place to be. Then I got hiccups. Christian Miller, last but not least, Jordan Reed's number 3, not on Matt Miller's 5. Blue chip. That's all I'm going to say. Freak. Like, he is insane. Rayshon Benny is a player listed to watch outside the top 5. Very underwhelming to me. I was very underwhelmed with his game. But again, I'll let that video speak for itself. I'm just going to be honest, I'm not going to give any analysis on the linebacker group. It's the one I know the least about, except for maybe a couple of these small guys in here. But for Matt Miller, he goes Harold Perkins at 5, Whit Weeks at 4, both out of LSU, Deontay Lawson, Alabama at 3, CJ Allen at 2, and Anthony Hill Jr. at 1. Of course, CJ Allen from Georgia, Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas. For Jordan Reed, he has Sonny Styles at Ohio State at 5, Deontay Lawson at 4, Whit Weeks at 3, CJ Allen at 2, and Anthony Hill Jr. at 1. Harold Perkins, I just wish he were able to actually play edge full time, because I think that's what he does best outside of being a good athlete and having some coverage ability. Deontay Lawson, he's probably the safest linebacker in the class, understandably why he is 3 and 4 on their list. The rest, I will leave to you guys who know better. Suntarine Perkins, I graded him as an edge, and he's absolute cheeks, but I really do think he's pretty damn solid as a linebacker, so I like seeing that right there. Then let's talk about cornerback before we go into DB and end this all off. Matt Miller's top 5 is D'Angelo Velcro Pons, Chandler Rivers out of Duke. So D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana, Chandler Rivers out of Duke. I'm saying the names of the school, not because I don't think you can read, but also because I have some people who like to listen to the audio version. Malik Muhammad, number 3 out of Texas, Avion Terrell, number 2 out of Clemson, and Jermod McCoy, number 1 out of Tennessee for Matt Miller. For Jordan Reed, Malik Muhammad at number 5, Avion Terrell at number 4, DJ McKinney out of Colorado for number 3, Jermod McCoy at number 2, and AJ Harris out of Penn State at number 1. We'll talk about Jermod McCoy first. Jermod McCoy, he's a fun player, and I love physical corners. I just worry about that ACL tear, and honestly, he got separated a lot on tape. There was a lot of separation. Avion Terrell is an absolute savage. He's just undersized, and we'll see if that ends up coming to bug him, but he plays very similar to D'Angelo Pons, who we'll talk about in a sec. Plays a lot larger than what his weight suggests, but we'll talk about D'Angelo Pons right now. He's 170, but he plays like he's 200. He moves as quickly as a 170-pounder, though, and, I mean, he just is awesome. He can handle sizable receivers, even some tight ends. This guy's going to be a baller nickel in the NFL. But we'll talk about Malik Muhammad as well. He is both at number 3 on Matt Miller's and number 5 on Jordan Reed's. Very underwhelming player and lost 10 pounds. I'm a little bit terrified for him coming up this year. DJ McKinney's Reed's number 3, not on Matt Miller's. DJ had his moments where I thought he was a superstar. I still think he could get there, but I think he also ended up losing some weight, and I'm not a fan of that. Chandler Rivers, one of the smartest corners in the entire country. I'm perfectly understandable why he should be in the top 5. And then last but not least, AJ Harris is one of the best balanced corners in the entire country. Understandable, but his losses are very noticeable. I think he makes some big mistakes, but on average, he does a damn good job. Josh Moten out of Southern Miss was the player outside of the top 5. Probably the best coverage skills in the class for where he'll get drafted, but he's 164 pounds and transferred 1 billion times. So it's a little bit confusing. And last but not least, let's go to the safety. And Matt Miller's top 5, again, Rod Moore out of Michigan, Michael Toloff out of Texas, Kamari Ramsey out of USC, Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. Damn, Caleb Downs really got me sneezing out here. Caleb Downs at number 1 out of Ohio State. For Jordan Reed, he has Tao Johnson out of Utah. Love that shout out. Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina. Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. Kamari Ramsey out of USC. And Caleb Downs out of The Ohio State University. Shout out to Tao Johnson. I've been a huge fan of his since I think he was a redshirt freshman. So love his game overall. Love that shout out. Again, excited to get to the DBs. But, Rod Moore, he's just been not necessarily reliable health-wise, but definitely somebody talent-wise could end up being in the top 5. Dalen Kilgore really bummed me out, but I was watching the corners, so I'm going to wait to study him as a slot safety, and I love the fact he's listed as part of the safety group. But again, really underwhelming in the small sample size I ended up watching him in. Michael Toff, I think it's Toff. It could be Taffy. I mean, just again, feel free to correct that. But he's okay. I mean, I didn't end up getting wowed, but I didn't end up watching him in all 22. I just watched a lot of players versus him. Then you got Dylan Thieneman. I mean, just really baller true freshman season. A little bit of a downgrade last year, but Purdue as a whole kind of was. Kamari Ramsey, I mean, he was supposed to be like that fringe 3rd round pick last year. I think he could definitely try to vault up into that 2nd round range, and it's a good lineage there at USC. And then last but not least, Caleb Downs is the true number 1. He is a superstar. The only time he sucks is when he second guesses himself. And that's something that I will take any day of the week. That, and then of course they end up talking about Keon Saab. I love the fact that they mentioned him outside of the top 5. He is somebody who has easy athletic potential to get himself into the top 5. We'll see if he ends up bouncing back. But thank you again for watching, showing the love that you always do. I'll see you later. Peace.